time once again for Uncle Matt's bedtime story.
Hello everybody, it's Uncle Matt, and I'm here to read you another bedtime story. And tonight's bedtime story is called Chiang and the Dragon's Dance, written and illustrated by Ian Wallace. And this week, all week, we are reading stories to celebrate Chinese New Year. That's right, it's Chinese New Year week 2022 here on Uncle Matt's bedtime story. Yes, all week we'll be reading different stories, and I hope you can join us. And this year it is Year of the Tiger? Yes, Year of the Tiger. I myself am a rabbit. I like that animal. I'm not a tiger. I wonder if you know what your animal is in the Chinese zodiac. Well, let's get started here. This story was copyright in 1984 and revised in 2006. And I hope you like it. Are you ready? Here we go. From the time Chiang stood only as high as his grandfather's knees, he had dreamed of dancing the dragon's dance. Now, the first day of the year of the dragon, and this year it's actually the year of the tiger, had arrived. So the year had arrived, and his dream was to come true. Tonight, he would dance with his grandfather. But instead of being excited, Chiang was so scared he wanted to melt into his shoes. He knew he could never dance well enough to make his grandfather proud of him. He stopped sweeping the floor of his family shop and looked into the street where his mother and his father were busy with other shopkeepers, hanging up paper lanterns shaped like animals, fish, and birds. It's time to practice our parts in the dragon's dance for the last time before the other dancers arrive, Chiang. The afternoon is almost over, called Grandfather Wu from the bake room behind the shop. If I were a rabbit, that's me, I could run far away from here, Chiang said to himself. But then Mama, Papa, and Grandfather really would be ashamed of me. So very slowly he walked into the bake room where Grandfather Wu stood waiting. He was wearing the splendid fierce dragon's head that he would put on again that night for the parade. Pick up the silk tail on the floor behind me, said his grandfather from inside the dragon's head, and together we will be the most magnificent dragon that anyone has ever seen. Chiang did as he was asked, but as his grandfather started to dance, Chiang did not move. Grandfather can hide under the dragon's head, he whispered, but if I trip or fall, I have nowhere to hide. Everyone will say, there goes clumsy Chiang. Grandfather Wu stopped dancing. A dragon must have a tail as well as a head, he said gently. Chiang looked down at his shoes. I can't dance the dragon's dance, he said. You have trained for a long time, Chiang. Tonight, when you dance, you will bring tears of pride to your parents' eyes. Now come, join me and practice just as we have practiced before. But when Chiang tried to leap, he tripped, stumbled, and fell. Why had he ever thought he could dance the dragon's dance? Why did he ever want to? He was much too clumsy. Well, he jumped up and ran away from his grandfather, out of the shop and into the market street. He stopped long enough to pick up a rabbit lantern, poke 2 holes for his eyes, and shove it over his head. Look, look, it's the dragon's tail, called Miss Lau, dangling a speckled salmon for Chin Chiang to see. Tonight, when you dance, the great dragon who lives in the clouds above the mountains will be honored, and next year he will fill our nets with beautiful fish like this. Chin Chiang turned away. And he will grow oranges of a size and color never seen before, called Mr. Ku. What they say is true, added Mr. Singh. The great dragon will bring prosperity and good fortune, if your dance pleases him. But Chin Chiang remembered what one of the other dancers had once told him. If the dance was clumsy, the great dragon would be angry. Then he might toss the fruit from the trees and flood the valley. It will all be your fault, thought Chin Chiang. Grandfather Wu will have to choose someone else to dance with him. He waited to hear no more and raced across the market street. Our fish, called Mrs. Lau. Our oranges, called Mr. Ku. Chin Chiang turned the corner. Our dance, called Grandfather Wu from the doorway. Looking out through the lantern, Chin Chiang hurried along the road by the sea to the public library, which he had visited many times when he wanted to be alone. He opened the door and ran up the stairs, round and around, higher and higher, up, up to the door at the top that led out to the roof. From his perch in the sky, he could see the mountains rising above the sea, and below him the animal lanterns, which would glow like tiny stars tonight. Chin Chiang felt happier than he had for in many days. I never expected to meet a rabbit on top of this roof, called a strange voice. Chin Chiang turned around quickly. A woman carrying a mop and a pail was coming toward him. I'm not a rabbit, he said shyly. I'm Chin Chiang, and he pulled off the lantern. Oh, that is much better, she said. Greetings, Chin Chiang. My name is Pu Yi. May I enjoy the view with you? She didn't wait for a reply. In a little while, I'll be watching the Chinese New Year parade from here. I used to dance the dragon's dance when I was young, but not anymore. My feet are too old, and they are covered with corns. My grandfather dances the dragon's dance, said Chin Chiang, and his corns are as old as yours. Pu Yi laughed. His old shoes may move his old bones, but my feet will never dance again. Well, a wonderful idea suddenly came to Chin Chiang. What if he had found someone to dance in his place? He would show Pu Yi his part in the dance right now. No one would see them if they tripped or fell. You can help me practice what my grandfather taught me, he said. Oh, my creaky bones, what a funny sight that will be, said Pu Yi. You can dance, he told her. Cautiously, Chin Chiang gave a little jump. Pu Yi jumped too. He shook slowly at first, and she shook too. Next, they leaped into the air, landed together, and spun on their heels. Before long, Pu Yi had forgotten her creaky bones. Then Chin Chiang stumbled and fell. Let's try again, said Pu Yi, picking him up. While they danced, darkness had crept down slowly from the mountains to the city below. Then, from far off, Chin Chiang heard the lilting tune of pigeons with whistles tied to their tail feathers. They had been set free from their cages in the marketplace and were flying high above the buildings. Chin Chiang knew this meant that the New Year festival had begun. We must go, Pu Yi. We're late, said Chin Chiang. The pigeons are flying free. I'm not late, she replied. I'm staying here. But Chin Qian pulled her by the hand, and they hurried down the stairs together, round and round, down, down, down to the market street. The sound of firecrackers exploded in their ears, while the eager crowd buzzed and hummed. Chin Qian pushed his way forward, but Puyi pulled back. In the noise and confusion, Chin Qian let go of her hand, and suddenly he came face to face with the dragon, whose head was wreathed in smoke. "Where have you been, Chin Chan? I have been sick with worry," called Grandfather Wu in a muffled voice. Chin Chan did not reply. "Come now, take up the tail before the smoke disappears and everyone can come see us." Chin Chan stood still, his feet frozen to the ground. The clamor of the street grew louder, stinging his ears. "I can't dance, Grandfather," he said. Grandfather Wu turned away. "You can dance, Chin Chan. Follow me." "Look, look, here comes the dragon," called Mr. Singh. The crowd sent up a cheer that bounced off windows and doors and jumped into the sky. Well, Chin Chen was trapped, and slowly he stooped and picked up the tail. Grandfather Wu shook the dragon's head fiercely until Chin Chen started to kick up his heels to the beat of the thundering drum. Then suddenly, Chin Chen stumbled, but instead of falling, he did a quick step and recovered his balance. Excitedly, he leaped up into the air. Oh, wow. Leaped up into the air and again and higher again. And as the dance went on, Chin Chen's feet moved more surely. His steps grew firmer and his leaps more daring. Mrs. Lau and Mr. Ku cheered from their market shops while people poured out of their houses and onto balconies and sidewalks, filling the streets high in the sky. Flags of fire and falling moons burst into the light. They sizzled and sparkled and rocketed straight up and whistled to the ground. All right. Just then, Chin Chiang caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd. It was Pu Yi. Chin Chen leaped to the sidewalk and pulled her into the street. "I can't, Chin Chan," she said, pulling away. "My bones, my corns, my knees." "Pu Yi, yes you can," Chin Chen assured her. "Look at me." Hesitantly, she took a hold of the tail, and together they kicked up their heels, just as they had on the rooftop. While the throngs of people cheered them on, up one street, down another, they danced to the beat of the thundering drum. All too soon, the dragon lifted its head and shook its tail for the last time. The dance was over. Pu Yi hugged Chin Chen close. Grandfather Wu smiled inside the dragon's head. "Bring your new friend to our home for dinner, Chin Chan," he said. Pu Yi and Chin Chen hopped quickly over the doorstep and into the bake shop. The family exchanged gifts of fine teas in wooden boxes, new clothes in small red envelopes of lucky money. Then they sat together to share plates of meat dumplings and carp, bowls, and steaming soup, and trays of delicious pastries and cakes and fresh fruit. "To Chin Chen, the very best dragon's tail I've ever seen," said Grandfather Wu, raising his glass in a toast. Chin Chen's face glowed with pride. "To a prosperous year of the dragon, this year of the tiger," he said, raising his glass to his mama, papa, grandfather, and his new friend, Pu Yi. And that's the end. Wow. I think fear really got a hold of Chin Chen there. Very nervous. And it's cool that he met a new friend that encouraged him and helped him with his dance steps. That's Pu Yi. Well, that is all the time we have for Uncle Matt's bedtime story. I hope you enjoyed that story, and I will see you next time. Goodbye. Happy Chinese New Year.